Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome, welcome, welcome. When you're ready, pop your cameras on. We're going to do a workshop today. It's going to be lovely and interactive. Kezia, lovely to see you. Sophie, Paul. Okay, everyone, pop your cameras on and fix your hair as soon as the camera goes on. Just make sure you kind of get a few of these going on. Nice one, Simon. Very nice. Okay, great. Excellent. John, you came prepared with a beanie. Well done. I like it. Bill, you've got your Christmas tree up. Beautiful. Love it. Kirsty, nice to see you. Okay, here we go. Welcome along. Let me know in the chat, whereabouts are you joining me from? Where are you in the world? And here's another one. Let me know, why do you want to be an author? Why have you jumped on this call? What is it that makes you want to be an author? Why would you be interested in writing a book? What's your current reason? Might shift after today's workshop. You might change your reason. But let's have a look at a few people are already authors. Nice. Build the brand credibility. Look at this. New Zealand, Melbourne, London, Los Angeles, Berlin, Perth, Zurich. We're going to have authors all over the world by the end of this hour. Get the business launched, create impact, become a key person of influence. Sweden. I want to share a message. Dubai. I just got back from Dubai. That's why I look a little bit disheveled, to be honest. Cape Town. Deeper connection with my audience. Look at all these people from Dubai. Malaysia. I want to share what I know. Just awesome. Okay, let's get into it. Let's get into the workshop now that we're all here. Alrighty. We want to get into our workshop. And remember too, put your cameras on because it's designed to be an interactive workshop. I've got a big screen. I can see everyone there. So it's nice. Okay, let's get into this workshop here. We are going to talk about the book that changes your life. As many of you have already heard, the book that changes your life is not one you read. The book that changes your life is one that you write, right? It's one that you publish. So I know plenty of people who read lots of books, and it's lovely, and that's great that they do that. But in many cases, it doesn't change their life. But when you write a book, it absolutely is life-changing experience. How do I know that? For those of you who don't know who I am, I've written lots of different books. These are the 4 main books in the series, but there's another 4 books that I've co-authored as well. Every single book that I've ever written has in some way changed my life. There has been these moments, these magical moments that have come from every single book. Every single book that you see there on the screen has generated literally millions of pounds or millions of dollars worth of sales. Every single book there has put me on a stage, highly, highly paid, where I've earned more money than most people earn in a month by talking for an hour on a stage off the back of those books. Every single book there has put me on a big podcast where tens of thousands of people, or hundreds of thousands, or even sometimes millions of people have engaged. Every single book has opened a door or a relationship that I now value very, very highly. So every single book that I've put out there has in its own way changed my life. I want to take you back to before I was an author. And one of the ways that I would try and connect with people and meet with people is that I had a membership at this private members club here called Home House in London. And this room is very, very familiar to me, right? I know this room inside and out because I've done probably, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of meetings in this room here. And what would typically happen is I would invite people that I wanted to meet me at Home House. And I got this membership at this beautiful private members club so that people would have a nice central location to come and meet me in London. And also so it was a really nice experience to meet up, right? So come and meet me at this nice private members club. We'll have a cup of coffee together. So I would have lots and lots of cups of coffees. And one of the ways that I built my business in the early days was by having a lot of first meetings, right? So a first meeting is really where you're just simply meeting for the first time, having a connection. You're not going to make any sales. You're not going to try and close an opportunity or any of those types of things. Probably not even going to pitch an opportunity. You're just going to have a get to know you meeting. And I used to have hundreds of get to know you meetings throughout the course of the year, like hundreds of first meetings. The amount of coffee that was flooding through my brains on a busy week, I was probably having coffees with, first meetings with maybe 3 or 4 people a day on top of all the other things that I was doing. So lots and lots of first meetings. Here's what I noticed about having a first meeting with people. I personally would always pick up the cost of having a coffee. So forgetting about the cost of a private members club, forgetting about travel, forgetting about the value of my time, but just purely and simply having 2 coffees at a private members club is about £7, right? It's about £3.50. I think it was even a little bit more than that, right? Maybe it's £3.80, £3.90. So it's about £7 or £8 to just simply pick up the 2 cups of coffee. And then I had an epiphany. I wrote the book Key Person of Influence, and I had this new tool, this book that I'd written, and I was trying to sell a few of these books, and I was trying to get people to buy the book. And then I had this epiphany moment. And the epiphany moment was, wait a second, it costs me less to give someone a copy of the book than to have a cup of coffee with someone. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, a book is not a book. A book is a first meeting. Anyone that I want to have a first meeting with, I'm just going to be able to send them a book, and it's going to cost me less than a couple of cups of coffee. It's going to cost me none of my time, and it's going to cost me no private members clubs. So for me to send somebody a book will actually be a first meeting on steroids, provided it's a thoughtful book that I send out. So I started doing this thing where I would basically sponsor events, and part of the sponsorship is that I would put a free copy of my book on everybody's table, and then suddenly all these people would get a free copy of my book. And this became a total game changer, because I can now have 500 first meetings with people, right, at scale. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is incredible. I'm having 500 first meetings in a day by having a book. Now, here's why it works. It works because people's brains don't really know the difference between having a first meeting and reading a book. The funniest thing is that some of my favorite people in the world are authors that I've read their books, and I've read their whole book cover to cover. And at the end of the book, I feel like I know them. I feel like I've connected with them in some way. Give me a wave if you've felt a connection to an author by the end of the, right? So the brain is just like so wired towards this idea that you build a connection. So here's the big thing that I want you to know. The first insight is that your goal is not to sell books, right? A tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of authors make money by selling books. So like, think about it like this. Probably 0.1% of authors, 1 in 1,000 authors, can make a basic income from selling books, right? Book royalties. You've got to sell a lot of books, and people have to, you've got to massively tap into something that everyone wants to buy. And, you got to have this, real moment. And it's probably only going to last for a year or 2 of selling books before it goes out of favor. So the first key insight is the goal of the book is not to sell books. The goal of the book is the first meeting. The book is going out and having a cup of coffee with people. And the goal of the book is to sell you. Your job as an author is not to sell books. The book's job as a book is to sell you, right? That's the big flip. You must make that first change in your mindset that you're not going to make money from selling books. You're going to make money because the book sells you, right? So that's the first change. The book is there to be your ultimate business development manager. So the fastest way to create a breakthrough in your business is to become a key person of influence. Publishing a book positions you as a key person of influence. The book that changes your life is not one that you read. The book that changes your life is one that you write and publish, and one that you give away 1,000 copies per year. So we show this strategy to a lot of people, and they totally transform their life with it. So James Church, for example, he was working really, really hard to sell his packages at Robot Mascot, his startup support packages. And then he wrote the book Investable Entrepreneur. He gives away 3,000 or 4,000 copies in a year, and then the business just massively quadruples after that. So the business just ramps up. Gabriella, she went from about $750,000 a year at her fertility clinic, and then she gave away 4,000 copies of the book. This is her standing on top of 4,000 copies. And then the following year, her business did $4 million worth of book sales. And the funny thing is, I recently spoke to Gabriella and she said, oh, my business has gone a bit flat. And I said, how many books did you give away last year? And she goes, oh, about 1,000 to 2,000. I said, Gabriella, when you gave away 4,000 books, you got 4 million of revenue. When you give away 2,000 or 3,000 books, your revenue goes flat. Give away 4,000 books. Make sure you just keep giving books away because those books are out there meeting people. So when the strategy is give the books away. So the key thing you must keep in mind is that this has to fit within a broader strategy. Your broader strategy has to be that you can gift a book for free, or you can give a book away as part of an event or something like Product for Prospects. And then upstream from that, you've got a core product or a product for clients. You need to have something that you're selling, all right? So if you don't have a good product that you can sell, then this won't work. So keep in mind, the people who make the most money of books, they've got something that they're selling. Maybe it's coaching packages, maybe it's consulting, maybe it's IT services, right? But you need something that sells upstream from the book. And when I say something that sells upstream from a book, it needs to be something that a book can sell, right? So books are very good at selling coaching, consulting, business services, wealth planning, fitness training, like all of those types of things. The book is really, really good at selling like packages, things like that. Books are not good at selling fashion. Books are not good at selling knickknacks. If your business sells, something that normally sells on Amazon for $39, a book is not necessary for you to sell a cheap thing. A book is really good at selling things between $1,000 and $100,000, right? So if you've got something that is your main part of your business, is something that people buy for between $1,000 and $100,000, books are really good at selling the $1,000 to $100,000 thing. Books are not required for selling things under $100. So you really want to keep that in mind. It's for a considered purchase. It's where some sort of behavioral change is required. Give me a little wave if your business in some way changes people's behavior. Like basically they have to like make a behavioral change. Okay, well, in order for someone to make a behavioral change, they need to buy into that change. So the book is really good for getting people to buy into the change. Let me give you a great example of this. So we wrote the book Scorecard Marketing, right? So, and then upstream from that, we've got the software Score App, right? So we know that every single client who buys Score App spends about $1,000 across the life of their subscription. So people who take a subscription with Score App, they're going to stick with it for about 2 years on average, or as far as we know, because it's only an early business. But it adds up to about $1,000. So every Score App subscriber is worth, we know every Score App subscriber is worth eventually $1,000 to us. So what did we do? Wrote a book called Scorecard Marketing, started giving away thousands of copies of Scorecard Marketing. In fact, I printed up 10,000 copies of this book, and we gave away 10,000 copies in 4 months. And as a result, that whole strategy cost me about $35,000 to $40,000 to give away all these books. So call it $50,000. We know that at the moment we're doing about $50,000 a month off the back of the people who signed up from Scorecard Marketing. So we can track 50 grand a month worth of subscription to a $50,000 promotion. So it cost us $50,000 once, and now it makes $50,000 a month, right? How cool is that, right? So rather than having to go out and talk to 10,000 people, I wrote the book, gave away 10,000 copies. The book did the work of talking to people at scale. Couple of quick things before we get into how to write the book. The book is hot coals. It's not lighter fluid. I want you to know that up front. What is a lighter good for? A lighter is good for very fast get the flame, right? So you put your thumb down, out comes the flame. Hot coals are a little bit different. Hot coals take a long time to warm up, but they stay hot for a long time, right? So a book is a hot coal. It's not lighter fluid. Lighter fluid is writing a blog every day on LinkedIn. If you want to generate fast little results, get your blog out there, get your article done on LinkedIn every single day. Post on LinkedIn every day. If you want to do lighter fluid, do cold DMs, direct messages to people on social media, right? That's going to be some lighter fluid. If you want some lighter fluid, go networking at an event, and you're probably going to pick up a sale just by going and networking with 30 or 40 well-selected people. You're going to go and meet someone and make a sale within a week or two, right? So those are all things that I would call lighter fluid strategies. Lighter fluid strategies are great at the beginning of the business. There's no question you want to have some lighter fluid if you're starting a business. Please, somebody in the comments, they said, I want a book to launch my business. A book is a terrible idea for launching a business. A book is a great idea for scaling a business, but it's not a good idea for launching a business. A book is hot coals. So hot coals, as I said, it takes a long time to get hot, but then it stays hot for a long time. And your goal with a book is to create something that is hot coals. Do you know when I wrote Key Person of Influence? 2010, it got published. 2010. This thing has been making millions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars every single year, year in, year out. It's part of our product ecosystem for 13 years now. So for 13 years, this thing has just stayed hot. How has it stayed hot? We just give away copies and people come and work with us. It's such a great strategy. It was designed to be a hot coal. It was not designed to be lighter fluid. So keep in mind, a book is a hot coal. It's not lighter fluid. It's going to take you 6 months to get this thing done. If you're fast, it's going to take 9 months for many of you, right? So you're going to publish this time next year. You're going to get excited about publishing today, and you're going to publish like in September next year. So that's not lighter fluid. If your business needs sales like before Christmas, a book is not going to help you, right? You might as well give away somebody else's book, right? That's probably going to be more helpful. So remember, this is lighter fluid. It's not, this is hot coals. It's not lighter fluid. Here's what you need to have in place before you write a book. Before you write a book, you need to have 4 things in place. You have to have a good concept for your book and for your business. So you've got to be certain on your concept. You've got to say, I know what my business is, right? Mostly that means you've been in business for a couple of years already. So you've formalized your concept. Number 2, you've got to know who your audience is. Who's your typical buyer? Who spends the most money with you? Because your book is going to go out and get you more of those types of people. If you know that dentists spend the most money, great. Then your audience that you want is dentists. If you know that entrepreneurs spend the most money with you, then you've got to have a book for entrepreneurs. If you know that dads and spend the most money, then you write a book for dads, right? So you got to know who your audience is. Your offer, you've got to know how the book is going to make money. And it's not going to make money by selling books. It's going to make money by selling an offer. So upstream from your book has to be an offer. So, the reason that I did scorecard marketing is because I was very clear that we had an offer that would scale. I knew that I would be able to offer people our software. So the book's job was to offer the software. Now, if I didn't know that, then there's no point in writing the book. So you've got to know what the offer is. And then sales, you've got to have a way of making sales, right? So you've got to be able to say, like, if leads come in, I can turn those leads into sales. So concept, audience, offer, and sales. Those are the things you do before you have a book. If you're unclear about how to make sales or what the offer is or who the audience is or what your concept of your business is, don't write a book, please. But if you're clear on those things, then you're ready to start thinking about writing a book. Okay, let's talk about the book itself. We're about to get into the actual strategy. First things first, I want to address the biggest challenge that I see people make with their book. I want you to imagine that you go to a restaurant. And when you sit down at the restaurant, imagine that the waiter comes out and the waiter says to you, good news, while you're looking at the menu, I bought you a massive garlic cheese bread, right? You can have a look at the menu, but while you're looking at the menu, here's a massive cheese and garlic piece of bread. Now imagine that you're sitting there looking at the menu, eating the bread, and then the waiter comes back and says, what would you like to order? And you say, actually, I'm full. I don't want to order anything because I ate all that cheese bread. And then the waiter says, you are a very rude customer. What a horrible person you are for not ordering food. I gave you this amazing cheese bread, and now you're not ordering anything. That's disgusting. That you're a horrible person. Get out of my restaurant. Whose fault is it? The fault is the waiter. The waiter gave them a massive piece of cheese bread, And now, no wonder they don't want to order anything. So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that your book is not cheese bread. Your book should not be cheese bread. The book should make people hungry. It should not make people full. When people read your book, it has to be a specific type of book designed to make people hungry for what you do, not designed to make people full. That is a really important point. Right? If you write a book that makes people full, if you write cheese bread, do not be surprised when no sales come in, right? Because you're a waiter just handing out free food. Your job is not to hand out free food. This is not going to be a textbook. It's not going to be a how-to book, right? It's not going to be a book that just like answers every question about how to do it yourself. This is going to be a book that makes people hungry for what you do. And there's a particular formula for doing that, right? So we want to be able to use a formula. I'm going to give you the formula today. But the key thing here is that your book does not tell them how to do what you do. It sells them on why they should want what you do. It doesn't tell them how to do what you do. It sells them on why they should want what you do, right? That's the big difference. We're going to call this a thought leadership book. Thought leadership book is why someone should do it, who else is doing it, what doesn't work, and what principles they should follow, and then what to do next. So we're going to be doing a thought leadership book. A thought leadership book is a book that gives people the direction as to where they need to go, right? A thought leadership book makes people hungry for something else. When you read Start With Why, you feel hungry to build a culture where people start with why, that it has a purpose at the center of it. When you read the book Lean Startup, you feel hungry to implement the Lean Startup model in your book. When you read Key Person of Influence, you feel hungry to become a key person of influence. When you read Oversubscribed, you feel hungry that you want to get your business oversubscribed. When you read Scorecard Marketing, you feel hungry that you want to put a scorecard marketing campaign in place, right? So the goal of the book is to make people hungry for something, not to make them full. All right, so I'm about to get into the strategy. In the chat, what has been your biggest light bulb moment so far that has just changed your mind on something? What's the light bulb moment that for you, just in the first 20 minutes, has made you go, oh, I'm thinking differently already about a book? All right, let's do a quick recap. The cheese bread, make people hungry, yes. Right? The goal is not to make them full. The goal is not to sell books. It's for the books to sell you. Right? The book is a scaling tool, not a launching tool. Yes. The book is for giving away. Yes. Anna says, every single one of my books has made her hungry for something. Fantastic. The book is a lead generator, right? The book is a slow burn hot coal strategy. Yes. All righty. You guys are getting it. I love it. Fantastic. All right, let's get into the strategy. Now, those of you that are looking at Facebook or you're like distracted or any of that sort of stuff, I'm about to get into the detail. You got to go full scale focus on this. If you miss any of these steps, you're going to kick yourself, right? Focus on these steps. These are important steps. I'm about to get into a strategy. You need to look at the screen because I'm going to show you some stuff. All right, so here's the strategy for building a book that makes people hungry. All righty, so here's what it looks like. This is my blueprint. Every single one of my books is written on this blueprint. Let me walk you through it. The first thing we do is identify the perfect reader and a control question. Perfect reader plus control question. That's the first thing we're going to do. Once we know who the perfect reader is, we're going to identify what is the present situation that is less than perfect. What is the prize that they desire, that they really, really want? And what are the problems or mistakes that stop them from getting what they want? So this is the research we do at the beginning. Who is my perfect reader? What's the present situation? What's the prize? And what are the mistakes? Now, I want you to be aware that I've used Venn diagrams deliberately. If the problem was simple, they would solve it themselves. So it has to feel complex. If the desire was simple, they'd easily reach out and get it. So it's got to be complex. And the problems, if it was just 1 or 2 problems, they would have already solved it themselves. It's got to be 5 to 10 problems that stop them. So let's talk about something like weight loss for busy dads. So the present situation is I'm a dad, I've got multiple kids, I'm a business owner, and I've got all these demands, and I've got issues around portion control because there's so much food in the house, and I've got issues around finding time for the gym, right? All these problems that are coming up. My prize would be that I lose a bit of weight, that I raise my energy levels, and I feel more confident. And it's like, okay, great, there's my prize. So it's like present, prize, 10 problems that stop me. So all of these sorts of things, right? So this is the complexity. So you're going to do your research. Now let's just break it down a little bit. I don't have loads of time today, but I'm going to break it down so that you're directionally correct. My goal today is just get you directionally correct for the year ahead, right? So you're going to have to do a bit of work outside of this workshop. I wanted to keep this short to an hour so that as many people could jump on as possible. So perfect reader, remember that the perfect reader is not someone who's broken and needs fixing. It's probably someone who's good and wants to go to great. The perfect reader is probably not a beginner who has no idea. It's probably someone who's tried stuff before that didn't work. So keep in mind, your perfect reader is probably looks a lot like your favorite customer. So if you've already got an existing business, you don't want to think about someone who's broken and needs fixing or who's starting out from scratch and has no idea. You want to think about your perfect customer. Remember, go back to my example of the private members club. Who do you want to be sitting down with at the private members club? It's not someone who's broken and needs free advice. It's not someone who's sitting there going, oh, I've got no idea and I'm just starting out. You want to be sitting down talking to someone who's got budget. They've got money to spend, right? So you've got to be thinking, who is my perfect client? It's probably not who you think it is, right? It's not the first reader that pops to mind. It's the person who's got budget. They've got money to spend. So I want you to make sure when you think about your perfect reader, you think about your existing perfect customer. So just quickly, write down the name of your favorite customer who's a real life customer. They've spent a ton of money with you and you love working with them, right? Who is the person who spends the big bucks and you love picking up the phone and talking to them? You love hanging out with them and they love spending money with you. That's your perfect reader. I'll tell you who it is for me. Long time ago, I met this woman here called Tracy. Tracy's awesome. She's a great business owner. She's a founder and CEO. She's got loads of experience, employs people. She's got existing revenue in the mid 6 figures. She's got a real bias towards getting something done. She's comfortable with selling, sitting on lots of intellectual property. She's friendly, fun, and warm to work with. So Tracy's the person I like to think of when I think of my perfect reader. She's not a startup. She's not broken. She doesn't have a terrible business. She's good and she wants to be great. She wants to be a key person of influence. So the next thing I do when I think about Tracy is I think, what are all her questions that she asks when it comes to being a key person of influence? She might say, what are the benefits of doing this? How much experience do I need before I start the strategy? Should I be promoting me or should I promote the business? How do I get booked as a paid speaker? How can I avoid selling more of my time? How can I get ultra high paying clients? How can I get on TV and radio in front of the right people? How do I partner with big brands? What are some of the things that might waste my time versus the things that are good things? So Tracy's got all these questions. The reason she's got all these questions is because she's got a present situation that I understand. She's got a prize that she has in mind, and she's got obstacles that are in her way. And my book is going to get her past all of that. The control question is when I summarize all of that into one sentence, how do I become more visible and valuable in my industry? So when I wrote the book, Key Person of Influence, the control question is Tracy saying, how do I become more visible and valuable in my industry? The control question for oversubscribed is, how do I get people lining up to do business with me? The control question for scorecard marketing is, how do I get better leads and make bigger profits? The control question for Entrepreneur Revolution is, how do I respond to these changing times so that I can start a business that scales up and makes me successful in the unique times that we're in? So all of these businesses, all of my books have got a control question that pretty much ends up as the subline on the book. So the subline on Key Person of Influence is the 5-step method to become one of the most highly valued and highly paid people in your industry. The subline for Scorecard Marketing is the 4-step playbook for getting better leads and bigger profits. Oversubscribed, how to get people lining up to do business with you. All right, so these become the sublines. So the control question often basically is your subheading. Okay, now let's have a look at how we write the book. So we write the book. This is where you really need to pay some attention. You write the book by having an introduction that hooks the reader. And the hooks the reader, the way you know you've hooked the reader is they become committed to finishing the book. So the job of the introduction is to get commitment to finish the book. All right, that's the only job of the introduction. The introduction is not to tell people what's inside the book, not to like do some academic approach to how to write an introduction. No, it's to sell people on finishing the book. If I've read the introduction of your book, I should want to feel a strong commitment to finishing the book. That is the main purpose of an introduction, to get someone to commit to finishing the book. The first thing you do after the introduction is to disrupt their current reality, right? Pull the rug on what people think they know. Disrupt their current reality. So you need 5 to 10 ideas that challenge the reader's existing mindset. You want people to immediately think, oh my goodness, the world is not as I thought it was. You've immediately changed my reality. You've immediately questioned my assumptions. So that's the first thing we do. The next thing we do is we shed light on some insights. These are the big ideas you need to be knowing about. These are the big, impressive ideas. Now think about it so far. If we've got 1,500 words to introduce the book and to make sure that they commit to finish, if we've got 5 to 10 ideas with 1,000 words per idea to disrupt the reader, and if we've got 5 to 10 ideas with 1,000 words of insights, we're already about 10,000 words into the book. All right, so we've already got the makings of a good book already just by disrupting and shedding light on insights. In the middle of the book, we have the methodology. The methodology is what is it you want people to do? What's the new direction? What are the new steps you want people to take? Once people have received the methodology, they've seen what it is you want them to do, they're going to have objections to that. They're going to say, now that I know what to do, I don't want to do it for a few reasons. I'm not sure if I want to do it. So in a health and fitness book, the book might say, you need to work out first thing in the morning before your kids wake up. You got to get up at 6 a.m. and do a workout. And I go, I don't want to do that. Or it might say, you're not allowed to eat pasta anymore, right? No more pasta. I say, but I've got objections to that. Or in my book, Key Person of Influence, it says things like, you've got to create a product ecosystem. And people go, but how much will that cost? Or they might say, you've got to partner with other brands. But what if they steal my ideas? Right? So there's all these objectives, they're objections. But what if I don't want to do it because what if this happens? What if I try and it doesn't work? What if something backfires? Right? These are all their objections. Once you've handled those objections, you now need to give people a first step call to action, right? Sell the reader on taking some next steps. And then the final thing that you need to do is create a big finish where you leave the reader feeling uplifted on a positive high. So now they're feeling pretty pumped. So we introduce, get them to finish, disrupt their world, shed light on new insights, share a methodology, handle the objections, give them a call to action, and then finish on a positive high. All of that should add up to about 30,000 words, 30 to 40,000 words, let's say. Your book should not necessarily be 60 to 80,000 words. It's too intimidating for people, right? When it lands on their desk, they're going to sit there and go, ooh, that's a lot of book I got to read, right? Most of my books, the thicker ones are about 60,000 words. They're getting on the plus size. This one's only 22,000 words. It's super digestible. People love it. right? By the way, it also mails cheaply. It's a lot cheaper to print and send a 22,000 word book than a 40,000 word book. In the olden days before the internet, books had to be 80,000 words to 100,000 words because the book exists in a vacuum, right? So before the internet, the book exists in a vacuum. It has to cover all the details and all the information. But we're not living in that world anymore. The book does not exist in a vacuum. There's things like videos and other workshops that can be part of it. They can Google stuff. It can actually, today's books can be quite short, because if people want more, they can get in contact with you and they can get further resources. So even this book is only 22,000 words, and it's a great little book. I promise you, this is a great little book. Excellent. By the way, I just got back from Dubai. I tell you straight up, it is way easier to take 100 copies of this in a suitcase than 100 copies of this in a suitcase. Because when you've got 100 copies, that actually is meaningful. The difference between that and that is a meaningful difference, right? When you're packing 100 copies into a suitcase. So the difference between 40,000 words and 22,000 words is like twice as many in the suitcase that you can take when you go with you. And what you're going to discover is once you're an author, you're going to get paid to speak, right? I just got paid a stupid amount of money per day to go. I earn more money in a morning than most people get in a month. And I do that 8 days in a row, right? So I go to Dubai, and I think I did something like 8 or 9 events in a week. It's ridiculous. It's like it's out of this world, right? So, but when you do that, you're going to take 2 suitcases full of books. It's the worst part about being a key person of influence. Here's the Crimea River piece. Crimea River, 2 suitcases full of books. It's a nightmare, right? They always ask you at check-in, why have you got so much? What is so much luggage? And then when you come back the other way, why are you carrying 2 empty suitcases, right? So you're gonna have this sort of drama in your life. So let's just quickly run through it. So the intro. Here's how I do my intro. Some of you are familiar with this. You're not going to take all of this in at once, but I just want you to know there's a method for getting people hooked on your book. It's called the Capstone Pitch. The Capstone Pitch is clarity. What's the book about? Authority. Why should you listen to me? Problem that we're going to discuss in this book. Solutions that are going to be discussed in the book. Why I wrote the book. The bigger opportunity of reading this book. The next steps that we're going to cover, and the emotional, the essence that I want you to feel. And once you put all of that into the introduction of the book, people are hooked. They want that book. They want to read that book, right? So we call that the Capstone Pitch. Then we're going to disrupt people. If you look at the Key Person of Influence book, what is the opening chapter? Your best thinking 5 years ago is your baggage today. That's a disruption. Careers are old technology. That's a disruption, right? I'm challenging your current worldview. The harder you work, the less you earn. That's a disruption. Right, so those are 3 examples of disruptions. The harder you work, the less you earn. Careers are old technology. Your best thinking is 5 years ago, is baggage. So this is the examples of disruption. These are examples of what I don't want you thinking. Another word for disruption is, what are the ideas that I want to flush down the toilet? What do I want to get rid of out of your head? Then insights. What do I want to put in there instead? You are already standing on a mountain of value, but you can't see it. That's a new idea that I want you thinking about. You must claim your digital land, right? That's a new idea that I want you to think about. The idea of claiming some land, claiming your ownership over your niche. The singer is more valuable than the microphone, right? Don't think that the technology is helpful. It's the singer that is helped by the microphone. So I want you to rethink about that. These are new insights. So in the opening of the book, I'm giving you disruption and I'm giving you insights. That gives you push-pull energy. Push-pull energy means that people feel the push of a new idea, of an old idea leaving, and the pull towards some new ideas, right? And push-pull energy is really powerful to create in your readers. They're going to keep reading if they get push-pull energy. How do you create push-pull energy? Disruption, insight. Disruption, insight. Disrupt is get rid of an old idea. Insight is replace it with a new idea. So that's the opening section of the book. In the middle of the book, We're going to introduce a methodology. It's going to be a 5-step methodology or a 3-step methodology. It's going to be a 7 pillars methodology. You're going to create a methodology. And the methodology is, these are the principles that I want you to adopt. Now, it's important that the principles are not how-to methods, right? This is not where we give people a textbook. It's where we give people principles. Now, principles are a bit different to process. A process is a how-to book, right? A process is like, this is the process of doing it. The principles are like pillars. You want to focus on principles, not process, right? So these are the big principles that you have to adopt. It's mindset shifts, right? The big picture stuff. So in Oversubscribed, I talk about the 3-part year: perfect repeatable week, quarterly spotlight, annual big message. Those are the big picture things that I want you to adopt in Oversubscribed. In Key Person of Influence, it's the 5 Ps. In 24 Assets, it's the 24 assets. So these are the big 24 assets that I want you to have. So in each of the books, I'm trying to get you to adopt a new method. All right. In the Scorecard Marketing book, I talk about you gotta have a landing page followed by the questionnaire, followed by dynamic results, and then promote the scorecard. And I give you the method as to how to launch a scorecard campaign. So you got to kind of create a big picture 4 or 5 step method, right? That is your unique method. When people decide that, yes, they like the method, then they're going to want to work with you to implement the method. Okay, so this is the method in the middle of the book. Once people see the method, right, objections come up. Right, so if I show you the 5 Ps, pitch. Oh, but I'm not sure if I want to put myself out there. I get embarrassed when I pitch myself. Publish. Oh, but how much does it cost? And what do I have to do? And when am I going to be ready? Product. Oh, but I just sell my time for money. My customers want me. They want my time. You know, I don't feel ready to sell products. Right? Profile. Oh, I get embarrassed. I don't want to be famous. I don't want people stopping me in the streets. Right? So people have objections to all of this stuff. So we've got to handle objections. So what we have to do is talk to our customers and find out what are all the what ifs that people are worried about. What if I don't want to be famous? What if I don't feel ready? Should I do an MBA first before I do this? What if I can't find the time to do this? What if I want to sell my business one day and they want me as the key person of influence to stick around? What is a realistic time frame? How much time? What if I don't have enough time to do this? Right? What if I don't have a budget to do this? A lot of the what ifs relate to the time, the money, and the creativity to implement your method, or the time, money, and energy required to put in for your method. Sometimes it relates to the belief in themselves. Sometimes it relates to the belief in you or others. And sometimes it relates to just the pure return on investment. What if this isn't all that? What if it's not worth doing? Right? What if it's a whole lot of time and energy and it doesn't actually give me a return on investment? So if you don't handle that stuff, people aren't going to go forward. They're going to know the method exists, but they're not going to say it's for them. So your book needs to handle objections. Now, if you do sales, wouldn't it be absolutely amazing for people to arrive at your front door with most of their objections already handled, right? You've already done objection handling, right? This is essentially like immunizing against objections. People's mindset is already clear from objections once they're talking to you because you've handled it. And then maybe they've only got 1 or 2 little points to clarify, but now you've handled the objections, boom. Most of the work is done. So you got to go in and handle these objections. So in the book, Key Person of Influence, if we go towards the back, it says things like you need to step off the merry-go-round of distraction, ignore your competition. It says the only people who can actually be free from their business or sell their business are key people of influence. You cannot do this on your own. You need collaborators to do this. You cannot play solo. The power of current best practices. You've got to leverage best practices. You don't have time for trial and error. it says you need to become a better key person of influence, not a better operator. Stop thinking about systems and processes unless you're a key person of influence. You need to get over the illusion of limited resources. There's plenty of resources available to help you to do this. The resources show up after you commit, not before. You need to stretch into the unknown, right? There's never going to be a right time. You need ready, fire, aim energy, not ready, aim, fire energy, right? So it goes through and it actually talks about that. Do not work for a clearing. Clearings don't exist, right? So in the back of the book, I'm covering all the objections where people are like, oh, but I haven't got the time or the money or the energy or any of that sort of stuff. It's like boom, 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 paragraph, chapter, page, of stop worrying about that stuff. Let's get to it. All right. So remember, I'm not trying to give people a cheese bread. I'm trying to get them to want to do the work. Right. My job is to sell, not right. Selling is not a dirty word. If you know what's good for people, you should sell them on doing it. All right. Stop being so on the fence. Right? Thought leaders aren't on the fence. Thought leaders are not sitting on the fence. Well, it's a little bit of this, it's a little bit of that. No. If you know you're talking to your perfect reader and you know it's good for them, put your best foot forward. Right? Tell them what they need to be doing. Tell them that they need to get over those objections that they've got. Alrighty. Now, call to action. Call to action is sell the reader on the next step. So here's what your book should do. Your book should tell people to go to a workshop or take a scorecard, right? Or to email you. At the very least, it should tell people to email you, but ideally it should tell them go and attend my mini workshop or take my scorecard. So a workshop, right, it should have a link and says, come and take an introduction workshop with us. All right. So my books put hundreds of people on the workshop every month. And they put thousands of people onto our scorecard. So when people go and they've read the book, it says key person of influence, benchmark your ability to take influence. Now, throughout the book, it actually tells people right after the introduction to get the most out of this book, take the scorecard. When people have seen the 5 Ps, it says, now that you know the 5 Ps, take the scorecard if you haven't done so already. And then at the end of the book, as a next step, take the scorecard and attend the workshop. When we hand this out, we normally hand it out with a bookmark. And the bookmark says, enjoy reading this book and also take the key person of influence scorecard to get the most out of this book. So I'm giving people a call to action because I want them to signal that they're interested. I want their data. I want their details. I want to know where people are at right now. So your book should go hand in glove with a scorecard or a workshop. Make sure that that always happens. You need a very easy, clear way for people to transition from the book into connecting with you, working with you. Now, maybe you've got a business where, you know, people spend £150,000 with you or $150,000 with you. Maybe you want to say, email me to set up a one-to-one call if you want to put in place an advanced cybersecurity system for your large corporation, right? So maybe it's just as simple as email me. But for many of you that have got something that's a bit scalable and that you want to qualify your leads a little bit, a scorecard's perfect for that scalability and that qualification. So next step, that's what we want to do. And then the last part is end on a high point. People hate it when you end on a next step, right? So if the end of the book is just purely call to action, people are like, the finale, the grand finale is you know, take a scorecard and go on a workshop. No. It needs a grand finale. You do not want to finish on the last thing is the call to action. You want to finish on a motivational, uplifting next step. Remember, you want to finish on the bigger picture. Why should people be doing this? What's the grand reason for people to do this? Right? What's life going to be like once they do the thing? Right? Just finish off on the high note. Maybe it includes a case study of a story of someone who got a great result. Maybe it talks about a big trend that people are going to be able to be proud of, that they surfed that trend. Maybe it's going to talk about what the feelings or the emotions are going to be like once they've completed the job, right? So whatever it is that you're talking about that is the prize, make sure that people finish on the feeling that they are going to get the prize, that they now have it in them to get that prize. All right. So you want to finish the way people should feel when they finish that last chapter is, oh, wow, that was amazing. That made me feel great. I feel uplifted. I feel ready. I feel inspired. All right. So make sure you get the call to action in prior and then finish on the big picture, the big oomph. All right. Make sure that's the last thing that they finish on, the oomph factor, the inspirational factor. Okay, let's talk about implementation. So there's a few different ways that you publish a book. I've been published by some of the biggest publishers in the world, and I've also been published by the hybrid Rethink Press, right? That's part of Dent Group. Let me share with you the truth about the publishing journey. So here's how it works with a big publisher. You spend 6 to 18 months dancing around the topic and what they're going to sell and convincing them on that you're going to be able to sell books. The motivation for big publishers is that they want to sell books at full retail. That's what they want to do. They're not interested in giving away books cheaply. They're interested in monetizing the full retail price of a book. Now, here's the problem with that. The problem is they're going to say, we're only going to put a book out if we can see that there's going to be at least 10,000 retail sales. Now, you might say, oh, but my best customers are actually not the mass market. My best customers are focused on a niche segment within the market. They hate that. They want to hear something that's big and wide. They don't want you writing a niche book that's focused on a small but affluent end of the market. They want to focus on the biggest, widest potential of the market. So they're going to say, you're not allowed to write a book for a niche segment of profitable part of the market. You've got to write a book for the beginners. So for example, my friend Jeremy Harbour, the guy has bought and sold dozens of businesses and made hundreds of millions of dollars. They made him write a startup book. They wrote a book called Go Do, and they said, oh, here, we want you to do a book for startups. And he's like, yeah, but I've made all my money through M&A, and that's really what I'm most an expert on. And they're like, yeah, forget about M&A, mergers and acquisitions. Not many companies want to buy a book on M&A. We just want a startup book for the masses. So he wrote his first book called Go Do, and he got flooded with people who were startups. He then came to Rethink Press and wrote a book called Go Do Deals, right? 5 years later, he wrote Go Do Deals. Which book do you think makes him the most money? Go Do Deals makes him the most money because he gives it to experienced business owners who want to do a merger or an acquisition, and then they come to him, his private equity firm, to fund it and to work on it and to strategize it. So the big publisher pushed him towards Go Do for startups. The niche publisher says, where do you make your most money giving away books? Go Do Deals, right? So that's the difference. So one of the first things you'll discover is big publishers, they take 6 to 9 months at least to figure out what is the widest possible market for your book. And that's not the market you want to go after. When you talk to Rethink Press, they're going to have a different approach. They're going to say, who's your type of customer that you want to replicate? Who do you want to give books away to? Because Rethink Press knows that the book is there to sell you and your business, and you're not there to sell the book. The goal is to give books away, not the other way around. The second thing I'll tell you is that the big publishers, if you are an author with a big publisher, guess how much you can buy your own book for? You can buy your own book in bulk for 15% off retail. So if your book sells for £15, if you've got a £12.99, $15 on the back of your book, you get a 15% discount off your own retail price. Sometimes it'll actually be cheaper to buy your book on Amazon than to buy it from your own publisher. There are plenty of times where authors look at their book on Amazon, they go, oh, wow, Amazon's doing a 20% discount. I'm going to buy 10 copies of my own book because it's cheaper than getting them from my publisher. Right? It's ridiculous. You get about 15% off retail. When you work with Rethink Press, they're going to help you buy 1,000 copies to give away, or 5,000 copies to give away, or 500 copies to give away. They're going to give you the best possible rates so that you can just give those books away. It's a very different model. The reason it's a different model, let me explain why it's a different model. when you get signed with a big publisher, they give you an advance. The advance is typically between £5,000 and £15,000 for most authors at the moment. It's not the 500. £500,000 is for someone who's got 1 million followers on Instagram at least, minimum, right? If you've got 1 million followers, you might get $100,000 advance. If you're a really big name athlete or something like that, but really they look at Instagram followers and Twitter followers. If you're in the 7 figures of followers, they'll give you a 6-figure advance. But they're looking at, basically, they give you about £1 for every book that they think you can sell, right? So roughly speaking, if they think you can sell about 6,000 books, they'll give you £6,000 up front. If they think you can sell 10,000 books, how do they do that? They take your followers and they divide by about 10. So if you've got 100,000 followers, they think you can sell about 10,000 books, they'll give you about £10,000, right? So basically you get this advance. Now, the advance is exactly what it says on the tin. It's an advance. They are advancing you some royalties. So they give you some royalties up front, right? So this is not them giving you money. This is them giving you an advance commission where you get an advance commission on sales that you have to make. As soon as you bank that advance, you're on the hook for the sales, right? And guess what's in the contract? It's in the contract that if you can't sell the books, you buy the books at retail. Right? That's what an advance means. You're on the hook for selling those books. They love giving you an advance because it's your commitment to sell the books. They see you as the one who's going to sell books. Everyone thinks that publishers sell books. They don't sell books. They publish the book. They warehouse the book. They send the book out to where you want to send the book to. They look at you as the salesperson, like a venture capital firm who looks at the entrepreneur as the person who's growing the business. The publisher looks at the author as the person who's going to sell the books. So you want to be real careful signing up for these deals. Now, the flip side is that Rethink Press will get you to pay for the creation of the book. So you're going to pay something like 5 to 10 grand for the cover design, for the whole process. You're going to pay so that the book is already at break even. The goal is to get the book to break even so that you are paying to produce the book that will build your business, and that book is now at break even. That means that once the book is at break even, it means that Rethink Press can work with you so that you can give away as many books as you want, right? So you can now give the books away, you can sponsor events, you've got all the flexibility in the world because you're not chasing retail sales. So the goal is that you just use your existing business to get the book project to break even, and then you've got the flexibility to scale up and give away as many copies as you like. So you're looking at something like 5 to 10 grand to get the book at break even. That's what the reality of all publishing is, that by the time you do typesetting and layout and registering the book and getting, the thing on Amazon and all the bits and bobs, you're looking at a it's a project. It's like anything. It's like a website, or it's like setting up a new podcast. If you're going to do it properly, there's some money to spend. So the way Rethink Press does it is they work with you to get to break even. They then partner with you on retail sales. So if you do make retail sales, they'll partner with you on that because they're going to manage all of that. And then they partner with you to get the book out into as many hands as possible. The way that Rethink Press thinks is they think, well, if you give away 1,000 copies a year, you're probably going to make 200 retail sales off the back of that anyway. People are going to talk about it. People are going to recommend it to someone. People are going to see that, you're out there, and they'll hear you on a podcast, and they'll want to buy the book on Amazon. So you will make retail sales. I've actually discovered the more books I give away, the more retail sales go up as well. Right? I'm one of the big retail sellers for Rethink Press because I give away so many books. Right? It seems counterintuitive. The more books I give away, the more I sell. But it's not my focus. Okay, let's just jump in here. Who's got questions? I know we're almost at the end of time. Actually, let's give you a next step so that you know what to do, and then we'll do questions, and then I'll finish on an inspirational high like all my books. Joe, what's the next steps for people?
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for doing that. Amazing. What a talk. I think everybody can agree that was cool. Lovely to see you all. So the next step is to work with Rethink, and one of the most important things is to actually think before you start writing a book, is to talk to a publisher before you've finished writing the book. If you're at that stage already, I've seen some of the chat, you may have made some directional errors that will need to be undone in order to make that book pay, to make that book the best sales tool for you. So a question that before I jump into this, that I want you to be thinking about is, if you were to write the perfect book to build your business, to grow your sales, what would that book be telling your ideal reader? What would it be saying? So I'll jump into sharing this. I'm going to just talk you through overall kind of options for helping you write the book. So here we go. You've seen them all now because I'm not. Okay, so here we go. So we've got 3 ways of working with you. At some end of the process, some people will just want to get this done, or want to just invest the money in getting this done and actually getting their book written. So we do offer a ghostwriting approach. That's using, again, the frameworks you've seen that Daniel's been discussing. We help you to get really clear on those P's, work through that arc, and write the book with you through an interview process. That's Booksmith. Book Buddy, we work with you. We have a coach that will work with you all the way through. Every one of these processes start with an intensive planning session. And then the third way we help people, this is the way most of you may think this is a good fit for you, is through Book Builder. And so Book Builder is again, it starts with an intensive one-to-one, and then you work in a group to get that book written. We're looking to write the book within 30 to 90 days minimum. Like that's the whole process. And then at the final stage of that, it's publishing. So we link that in with the publishing, and you get everything all done for you in that process. So there are 3 ways of writing your book. And then there's the way of working with Rethink to publish your book. I won't go into the detail here, but we've got a process, and we can share brochures with you and information with you. So just to give you a sense of how much your investment will be on this. So for Booksmith, the figure is £12,000 plus VAT. For Book Buddy, it's £6,000 plus VAT. And for Book Builder, it's £1,500. When you add publishing onto that, it's £7,500 plus VAT. We've published this year about 73 authors. So we're publishing several authors a week who have gone through our process. I'll just walk you through a process. What I want to make today is an offer on this. So they're the headline prices. We're coming out to the new year. I really want to get you motivated to write your book and get started in the year. As Daniel says, it's a hot coal. So the sooner you get started, the sooner you can start using this tool for you, for your business. Oh, we're back. So this is the process that we work through. So with Book Builder specifically, so I'm looking at the £1,500 approach. We do a one-to-one position and planning session. That's an all-day session, getting really clear on all those things that Daniel's been talking about. If you've got questions about that, that's where we solve that. Then we work in a group program to get your first draft and edit done, your second draft of the book done and tested, and work with your beta readers, and then the final draft for publishing. The planning process looks like this. I won't go into the detail of this. I think Daniel's done enough teach and detail, but we've got a very proven process for getting your book positioned, working through those P's that Daniel talked about, extracting the content, arranging the content, and then working through a proven process for getting that book written to get the actual productive work of writing your book, which is called the writer process. Then it gets to publishing. So when you're ready to submit with us, we'll edit your manuscript. We'll design the cover at the same time. We work with you in conjunction. This book is meant to sell you and your business. It's not about you selling books.
I'm just going to quickly jump in there too as well. When you get the cover done, one of the first things that I recommend doing is share the cover on social media and have an opt-in page where people can register their interest for getting a first chapter or first couple of chapters, where you basically say, drop me your email. I'm writing this book. If you'd like the first 3 chapters, let me know. It's just a way for you to have signal collection campaign going. We've had some people who have a opt-in for their book while they're writing it. By the time they've actually got the book written, they've got over 1,000 people who have actually opted in because they've run a LinkedIn campaign, getting people to opt in for the book when it's ready. So that book cover design, you want to get that early in the process while you're still writing. You don't want to sit there and go, oh, I'm going to wait until the end to get my book cover done. You want to get the book cover done at the beginning so that you can start getting people opting in for the book.
I should say, actually, Dan, one of the parts of the process, we book in calls about the marketing. So there are certain milestones exactly like that that we feed into this. So this is all about building the business. So although there's a process going on there are key milestones as you become an author, you become a published author, that you want to be sharing exactly for that reason, to signal to the market something's coming, that you're an expert. You can already get sales before the book's published. So that's our publishing process. And what I'm going to make today is an offer. So we do all of these in a complete package, but with book building in particular. So the fee is £1,500 plus VAT for book builder. If you add publishing on, that's 7,000 plus VAT. So that adds up to 9,000 plus VAT. The offer I'm making till the 15th of December is to get all of that for 7,999. So that's £1,001 saving on this process if you commit to doing both together. That's the offer we've got today. All I'd say is I don't want you to just dive in and grab the offer. I'd love to have a conversation with you if you're thinking about doing this to make sure we get the right process for you and your book and your business.
So we've got the commissioning editors at Rethink Press. There's 3 people you can talk to. There's a link in the chat if you want to talk to any of our commissioning editors, including Joe. So you've got Joe, you got Sarah, you got Jack. Feel free to book yourself a meeting. The next step from this call is book a meeting. Obviously, there's 250 people on the call, so book yourself a meeting about your publishing. Don't think that you get clear and then talk to a publisher. You talk to a publisher in order to get clear. So these guys are going to help you. When these guys do 70, 80 books a year, they know what works, right? Rethink represents over 1,000 authors. They know what's going to work. They're going to help you very rapidly get clear about what book you should do to build your business. So don't try and get clear, then talk to a publisher. Talk to a publisher in order to get clear. So you've got 3 commissioning editors that you can talk to there. Okay, let's jump into questions. Feel free to ask questions while also booking yourself a session with the people. All right, hands up if you've got a question. Use the little reactions button if you want to put in a question. Someone's asked a question about it. Is this the same as what's on the KPI program? Yes, a lot of this is packaged into the KPI program minus the hard costs of publishing. So we don't cover the hard costs of books and all that sort of stuff in the KPI program, but inside the KPI program is a lot of the publishing, pre-publishing work there is an overlap. So if you're already on the KPI program, a lot of this stuff is already in there. We wanted to do a session for people who just wanted to get a book or their next book done. Do we have a straight up process for the writing process? Yes. Once you're working with Rethink Press, you're going to use their writer method and you're going to have accountability and all of those sorts of things baked into the process. And Rethink Press is going to support you with that. A few of you have asked about AI. Do you use AI in the process? Should you use AI in the process? Yes, you should absolutely use AI to support the writing process, but not at all for the writing itself. What's about to happen is that Amazon is going to get you to declare if you've got AI generated content in the book, and it's not going to promote your book to anyone, right? It's going to wall your book off. You can sell a book. If you want to sell the book with AI in it, fine, that's for you. I will tell you, and I'm a massive fan of AI, AI is going to create the most generic sponge cake, right? It's not going to create a birthday cake that people want to buy, right? So people are going to tune out from AI generated content. They're going to want authentic, real life experience content, right? All of the stuff that anyone can find in AI is not going to be very valuable anymore. The stuff that people want to read is like real life case studies, real life stories that help them to understand. They want to know your unique take on things. Now, here's where AI is really good. AI is really good at helping you craft an analogy. AI is really good at helping you to find a real life case study or example in the real world. AI is really good for helping you to create a methodology that spells out a word, right? So if you give it your methodology and say, reword this so that it spells out the word success, right? AI is good for those types of things. AI is good as almost a brainstorming tool. We're building this thing called bookmagic.ai. It does everything except the writing of the book, right? So it's helping you to structure, but we'll get you early access to that as part of this as well. But this does not replace publishing. It doesn't replace any of that. AI is there to kind of be a writing assistant. But can you imagine if Malcolm Gladwell just simply stuck his name on a book that was written by an intern? That's the equivalent of getting AI to write your book, right? So, you know, Malcolm Gladwell's Malcolm Gladwell because Malcolm Gladwell writes the book. Does he have a research assistant? Yes. Does he have an editor? Yes. Right? He's got all sorts of people helping him AI is that helpful writing assistant, but it's not the person who writes the book. We want your unique take on things. Yeah, good point too. AI content will not be protected by copyright, right? Copyright is to protect humans, not AI. So once you've created an AI generated book, anyone can just copy that book, right? You can't claim copyright for something that was AI generated. So it changes the game in things. Jonathan has asked the question, do B2B topics or B2C topics tend to work better? B2B topics tend to work better, although I know that, Jonathan, you do something, in some cases you do B2C, but it's expensive, it's top end. Books are good for, I think books are good for anything that is more than $1,000 decision. People like to read a book before they make a big decision. If they're going to make a big decision, a book helps. Most big decisions typically are B2B, but B2G, business to government, B2 corporate. If you sell to corporate, books are awesome for corporate. Books tend to fly under the radar of gifts, right? They're not really considered to be a gift as far as most corporates are concerned. If you rock up to a corporate and give them 5 copies of the book so that they can read and understand what's going on, that tends to just fly under the radar. It's not the same as rocking up with 5 Rolex watches. It doesn't have the same negative connotation. So just simply turn up with your books, right? Obviously, we sell to corporate at Score App. We send out a lot of books to corporate so that they can understand the strategy. It helps them to buy as a committee. If everyone on the buying committee has a copy of the book, they tend to buy faster. It's also great at fast-tracking credibility. Any other questions? Feel free to put up your hand to ask questions. And if you're not asking a question, maybe let us know what's been the number one thing that has helped on this workshop. What's been helpful? What big idea did you take? Let us know in the chat. What is the biggest idea that hit you from this workshop? If you haven't done so already, book yourself a one-to-one with the Score. Can we repost that link to the Rethink Press team as well? Okay, people liking the structure. Please don't ask me questions on the private messages, right? I can't answer. If you ask me privately, I don't know if to, right? The fastest timeline between commitment to handing out books. What is the fast timeline between commitment and handing out books? Realistically, I think the fastest is about 6 months, realistically. Now, we did have one guy called Sebastian Bates who smashed it all out in I think it was 4 to 6 weeks. And it's a really good book. It's a really good book. The Warrior Method, or the Warrior...
Warrior Method, yeah.
Yeah, the Warrior Method. Really good book. He did it all in 6 weeks. It was absolutely blistering. But that's because Sebastian Bates is just some sort of a crazy black belt, amazing guy. I would say 6 months to 9 months is the. Would you agree with that, Joe? 6 to 9 months between idea to handing out a book?
Yeah, I mean, we've done it as short as 4 weeks and never again. And I'd say 6 to 9 months. You want to allow the time to get your ideas out anyway and to test them in the market to signal as the book is being created. So there are so many milestones. Yeah, we can 6 months. And I think as Dan was saying, traditional publishers, it will take 6 to 12 months for them to...
it'd be 6 to 12 months for them to sign you up.
Yeah.
Honestly, traditional publishers, if you started the process with them now, they wouldn't have a contract signed with you until 6 to 9 months from now. They wouldn't even start the process. They work really, really slow. They've got a backlog of people who want to publish with them, and they work so slow. And they're gonna alter the book as well. The people who write the books the fastest are the best salespeople, right? If you're a good salesperson, you're going to write a really fast book, because in sales, you've already got stories that people love listening to. You've already got facts and data that people resonate with. You've already got ways of opening to build rapport and get people to excited about you. The truth is, I'm a really good salesperson and I'm a really good author. And the reason I'm a really good author is because I'm a really good salesperson. Great salespeople are great authors because it's just another form of communication. So those of you that feel comfortable selling, you're going to write a good book. Or those of you experienced with selling are going to write a really good book. Those of you who are very technical, I need to warn you, if you do a book that's too technical, it's going to end up as a textbook and it's going to be cheese and garlic bread. right? People are going to get full on your technical, right? You're going to have to, don't be so technical. Your job is not to write the next textbook for university graduates. Your job is to write a book that leaves people hungry for more. So if you have a technical background, you're an engineer, if you're an engineer or a PhD or a doctor of something, right? You got to be really, really careful. You're going to have to beat that out of yourself.
Can I put something here? Because I think earlier in the chat, I asked, people were asking how much they'll need to invest to give away books. Something that I've been focused on is working out what your return per book is. So as Dan said earlier, you get like £1 per book, $1 per book from a traditional publisher. Some of Dan's campaigns, I know you've been getting a return of £75 per book given away. So every time you give a book away, you make £75 for Dent. We did a campaign with one author before a book was published. So this is why getting everything in line before you start. Before a book was even published, she sent out just 100 books and made 50k because she was selling a program. She knew who they were. So that's £500 return per book. So I'd start thinking in terms of how much could you get per book put into the market. As Dan says, they're like salespeople.
Just on that, £75 per book for me is the short-term return on giving away books at like a conference or in a campaign, an opt-in campaign. The long-term return on books is more like £500 per book. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The £75 per book does not include when I get paid 10 grand to talk for an hour. It doesn't include the times when I get, a business deal come in, an opportunity to acquire something. It doesn't include the times where people who've read my books want to invest in companies that we're running. It doesn't include like the flow-on impact of like long-term across the group of companies. So the books have just been like, they just give and give and give. They really are the gift that keeps on giving. How much do you
answer the question about? Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Ballpark, how much is it to print 1,000 books?
With us, because we pass on the print savings and we print so many books, you're probably looking at about £3 to £4 per book tops.
Yeah, £3 to £4. I remember when we did this one, right? It's a shortish book. It was about £3 per book. It might have been £270 or £280, but it's only 20. So it depends on the thickness of the book. Obviously, you're printing pages. So it's how many pages it is. And then, it gets cheaper as you do more because they can set up a big print run. So I'm a big fan of at least printing 1,000 copies and giving 1,000 copies away.
I would just throw one idea at this. I know some of you will be in this place where you'll borrow the ideas that Daniel shared. You'll do it yourself. Some people are in that position where they just want to do it themselves. I'd be very careful about assuming you're going to get a better per copy price as an individual if you're only printing 1,000 books. Rethink prints hundreds of thousands of books a year. We get the best print deals to begin with. So our method, it will help you get that book as low as possible. And I just put that as a concept.
That's a great point. Yeah. If I get, there's no way I can print books cheaper than Rethink Press can get books. They're pretty much, they're the biggest customer for the companies that they print with. Do I make available my PDF copies? I do. I normally put them behind a name and email address, but I do make my PDF copies available. Audio, what impact does audio have? It doubles the retail sales. So when you do an audio book, obviously you have to sit in an audio recording for, you've got to do 2 days in a studio typically. But 50% of people who buy books are buying them on Audible now. People are loving consuming books on Audible. My belief is that you should record the book and then put that on Spotify, put it on YouTube. If people want to access the book, right, through audio, just make it available. The goal is to get lots of people consuming your stuff, right? Because if you've done the book correctly, at the end of the book, they're hungry for more. They want it, right? Do I ship worldwide? I do. Simon, it really comes down to, can you make sales worldwide? If you can make sales worldwide, send it worldwide. If you've got a particular couple of markets that you work in, let's say you work in North America, set up a little distribution third party over there, print up 1,000 copies and have a dispatch center inside the North American market. That's going to be, a good strategy. Tom says, you all don't ship to the Philippines. Unfortunately, we don't ship to the markets that our pricing for our main products is too expensive. I know that we get price resistance from, places like the Philippines. So, that the reason we don't ship books to the Philippines is because most of our downstream sales are not going to be affordable for Philippines. There's an exception to that rule. I get it. But yeah, we don't do it at scale. Okay. Simon says, what's the uplifting message at the end? Are you talking about this workshop or are you talking about your book? For your book, it needs to be an uplifting message at the end. Simon's rushing me towards the end of this workshop. All right. Sorry, Simon. Sorry for going over. I want to just tell you about a magical moment that happened to me. I was in Boston. Now, just keep in mind, I'm a university dropout, right? I dropped out of university. I actually don't hold any qualifications. I don't even have a first aid certificate. I've got a driving license, right? I'm qualified to drive a normal car. And even that, I think the address needs updating. But, right, I am so terrible when it comes to having any qualifications or any skills or any of that sort of stuff. I feel inadequate in that area. So imagine this. I go to Boston for a paid speaking event, and the guy picks me up and he says, I'm going to take you for a little trip to Harvard University so you can see what Harvard University looks like. I'm like, oh, that's really, really cool. I get to go and see what Harvard's like. Obviously, I'll never go to Harvard. I don't have that in my mind, but it's like, oh, that's cool. It'd be fun to see what Harvard looks like. So I go to Harvard and we go to the Harvard University bookstore, and he says, I want to show you something. And we walk into the Harvard University bookstore, and he says, let's go to the business section of the Harvard University bookstore. And there we go. There's my book at the Harvard University, at the startup section of Harvard University where they do Harvard MBAs. And he said, Dan, you don't hold any degrees, you don't have any qualifications, but your book is here in the Harvard bookstore for people who pay $100,000 a year to do an MBA. Your book is one of the resources that they recommend. I tell you what, that was such a cool experience. That was a moment of book magic. I don't know what the return on investment was, but it felt like a big return on investment. It felt very, it was a big confidence boost. It was pretty cool to see the book in the Harvard bookstore. So I'll finish up with this. There are going to be plenty of reasons to write a book, but there's magical reasons that are beyond making money. There are so many little book magic reasons. There's going to be people who send you a message on LinkedIn saying your book changed my life. There's going to be people who come up to you at an event and say, I read your book and it was absolutely game-changing for me. There's going to be people who become lifelong friends and it started out with a book. And there's going to be moments where you walk into a bookstore and there's your book on the shelf and you go, woohoo, right? So there's the magical moments. So there's going to be all sorts of amazing magic moments that come. And that was one of mine. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that workshop. I hope we've inspired you to get your book done in 2024. And next step, book that call with the team. I'll see you soon. If I don't see you before Christmas, have a happy Christmas. And in 2024, go be brave, go have fun, and go make a massive dent in the universe. I'll see you soon.